Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this. I know I've been like trying to make this happen, and all the fans are asking about Necro Butcher. So it's interesting. How did you even come up with a name like Necro Butcher? Can you
Well,
hear
I
me?
didn't. Uh, can you hear me okay?
Oh, I can hear you fine.
Oh, no, I can't. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't. When I started wrestling, I was in the military, and this was in Dallas, Texas. And of course, they gave me a military type army character, which I didn't like at all. And there was no escape. I was doing the same thing in wrestling as I was doing every day at work. I didn't like it at all. And it was a different time back then. You didn't really pick what your name was or what moves you did, even, or and you didn't pick. You just did what you were told, no matter what. I remember I was talking to the guys that ran the show, and I said, "Look, anything that comes up, it's a cowboy, a pirate, a ballerina, anything, anything, I'll do it." And at the time, I was using my real name. I was Private Dylan Summers was my wrestling name, and they said, "Give us a couple weeks, and we'll come up with something new." And a couple weeks went by, and they said, "All right, your new wrestling name is going to be Private Dylan Sanders." So it's like their way of saying, "Shut up," do what you're told. And then this was before there was such a term as backyard wrestling. There was some kids in Fort Worth, and they used to rent Johnny Valentine's ring. Like Johnny Valentine would come set the ring up in these kids' yard, and then at a certain point in time, he'd come pick it up. And they had like birthday parties or whatnot, just kids. Well, one time Johnny Valentine got sick and never came got the ring for 8 months. He didn't come get the ring. So what do kids do with a wrestling ring in their backyard? They started running wrestling shows. I can remember Red Dog and Jazz wrestled there. Brian Nielsen wrestled under a mask. He was the American Dragon. Spanky wrestled there. Like these, they would, the local the NWA show was on a Friday night, and these guys would run shows in this backyard on Saturday morning. So a lot of guys that were in town for the NWA would stay over to make extra money at this what was now soon be known as a backyard show. And a guy who I was wrestling with wanted me to come down. It was their idea. They said it's something different than the army gimmick, and I just jumped. At the time I was wrestling maybe once every couple months. And this was something more. It was never supposed to go anywhere. It was the Necro Butcher character was just supposed to be ring time for Private Dylan Summers. Just being in front of a crowd, doing something besides training in the barn all the time in this ring. So it was just about ring time, and this is when the backyard wrestling thing was just starting to get noticed, and local news affiliate came to the show to watch this backyard wrestling show. Well, then of course the NWA promoter in Texas had saw this news broadcast and just you know it's like the proverbial snowball down the hill. Things got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then pretty soon no one was calling that Private Dylan Sanders guy to come wrestle their show. They were all calling this Necro Butcher guy. So it just did, had a life of its own. Wasn't even a planned thing, but now here we are almost 25, 30 years later. So some decisions in life are ones that are made for you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And you said a few interesting things there. So, first of all, how long were you in the army for, and what did you do besides butchering people, possibly? But
in the military.
the military, sorry. Yeah, how long were you?
Oh yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Uh, well, I was in from just 4 years. Just 4 years. It wasn't something I thought would be fun. but this was back when minimum wage was a whopping $4.25 an hour, and I had a wife and 2 kids, and she was pregnant. And for 4.25 an hour, you really had to work a lot of hours. You'd have to work 60, 70, 80 hours to get $100, $120. You really had to work, and it just wasn't meeting the bills. And I tried a few things, and nothing would really give me the hours that I needed because minimum wage was so low. This was a very, very small town in West Virginia, you know, and the Army's always hiring. So that's what I did. It wasn't something, it wasn't ever, other than playing as a child, it was not something I intended to do as an adult at all. I was just, trying to take care of the kids. My official job was cannon crewman, but I did a lot of other things. That was my official job title.
Huh, interesting. I mean, I have a lot of respect for vets, so thanks for your service. Even though you didn't want to be there, like anytime I see military guys at the airport, I always stop them. Sometimes I take a photo, but I always thank them for their service because it's important. It's a very brutal thing. I have friends that were affected by PTSD.
Oh yeah,
And it's a serious thing. So this is why when young kids say, I'm traumatized or PTSD, you don't know what the hell PTSD is until
no,
you've been in that zone. And half of them are so freaking lazy, they don't even want to get up their asses and go enlist in the military. You want a free education? That's how you get
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Anyway, okay, I'm on my rants now. Okay. So
Your podcast.
yeah, I'm serious. But with the did you even get wrestling training, or were you just trained in this backyard where you were doing things? Did you like teach each other things? Because I hear so many different stories about people's training, and everyone has a different one. Yours has got to be
Oh,
interesting. That's what I know.
okay. With the wrestling. Okay. At this point, I was living in Texas, and I'm this poor country boy, but the Army was a lot of money for me. So what does a country boy do but buy toys? So I bought a big satellite dish to put it in my yard. This was before you DirecTV, Dish Network, that kind of stuff, where satellite TV was this great big thing in your yard, that rotated, and I could watch all kinds of wrestling doing this. I was watching, stuff from Memphis. I was watching stuff, from Continental Wrestling. There was like 9 hours a week of Mexican wrestling on there. There was all kind of stuff, and I got to trading tapes with kid, VHSs and stuff. I'd get Japanese tapes and old Madison Square Garden tapes and all that kind of stuff. And I was getting weekly All Japan TV, New Japan TV, and I began selling tapes to guys that were training in Dallas, because they wanted to see the Japanese style and the moves. And just through constantly communicating with these gentlemen in Dallas, they said, "Hey, you should come up and try out." It was at the Sportatorium in Dallas, is where I went for my tryout. And the Army was paying the bills. I had no intention of this. I had no idea wrestling would even work out. It was a lot different then. Back then, you gave them a bunch of money up front, and they beat you up, and that was it. And you left, but they had money. It's now. It's backward. That they will string you along for payments, 4 or 5 months, and to say you're a wrestler when all they really did was take it easy on you to keep steady paychecks coming in, smaller checks. So I went up there, and I think it was 2,500 down. I had to give them before I even walked in the building, $2,500. And of course they beat the hell out of me. Of course they did. But at the end of the day, they asked me a question I was completely unprepared for, and they were laughing when they said it. They said, "Well, are you coming back next week, Dylan?" And I said, "Well, sure." I didn't think that was an option. I thought the beating was to tell me to not come back. But I just said in my head that I'm just going to keep coming back until they tell me not to come back. And they never did. And then again, I say, here we are 30 years later.
Isn't it crazy? I mean, especially with death matches, like fans that do watch XPW, you people are fucking sick. You're like sicker than I am in the head. And trust me, when I go, I go. But you people are out of your minds because you watch other people like beat the shit out of each other. Because there are a lot of fans that sit there that probably want to be like in your seat or in your stand, I guess, wherever your feet are in the ring. and it'll never happen because they're too chicken. So it takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing. Now, the producer of my podcast watched part of the XPW show, and he felt really concerned for you. I know. It's like, I don't know. Then you have girls like Minnie Knuckles going in there, like those girls are brutal. Did you ever think in your wildest dreams or in your younger version of yourself that you would still be doing this after all these years? It's insane.
No, no. And I didn't start out like this in Texas. Wrestling wasn't like this in Texas when I started. But the best place to make money in Texas at that time was Houston. Houston had the biggest crowds, but Dallas had TV. And after a few years, I was doing main events in Dallas and Houston, and I thought, okay, well, what's next? Is this the end of it? Is this as far as I can go? And I thought, no, I want to try. There's stuff on the East Coast, the Midwest. So I sent tapes out to people. Back then you had to send a VHS. You'd send a VHS with what you thought were your three best matches. You send it out, and that's how you went to a new place. Now you can just send them a link, and there's YouTube. You don't got to send anybody anything anymore. But it was a lot different then. And I went to a place in the Midwest. I went to IWA Mid South. They were like in Louisville, Kentucky, around that area.
I wrestled there once.
And I was always in the opening match, not making a lot of money, but it was, I was working my way up. And I would see the guys in the main event doing these, what later we call death matches. There wasn't even a word for them back then. They was that style of wrestling. Death match, the word death match came later, But I'd see these guys when they were in the main event and they're making money. And I thought, well, okay, this is where I'm at. If I want to be successful and be serious about this, I have to get in there and, try my best against the best guys where I'm at. And like I said, sometimes the best decisions are ones that you don't make. They're made for you. I was not trying to be a deathmatch wrestler per se, but I wanted to be a main event guy, and that's where I was. So that's what I did.
Yeah, it's amazing. I have a lot of respect for that. For any guy that steps in the ring or woman that does that. I mean, because I think every girl in that show that's wrestling for XPW has gigged at some point. And I miss sending in tapes. Like I remember sending in VHS tapes when I was at XPW. I remember sending them into like WCW, WWF, like all. But I ended up in ECW, which was like way cooler. Like I could say I was a part of that. I mean, who'd want to work with like that? That's so boring. Did you ever have aspirations of wanting to work for Vince McMahon or something like that?
Well, I went to a couple. I was an extra a couple of times, and I guess it was 98 or 99. They used to have a show called I think it was a Shotgun Saturday Night or something like that. And they called me, and I went there. I think I went 3 times. The first 2 times they didn't use anybody at all. They called 4 guys, and they said, "We're here in case we need you, but we're not doing anything with you." And then like the 3rd day, they used 2 of us, but we all still got paid the same whether we wrestled or not. But really, that was, and I kind of had a kind of defining moment in my life happened at these WWF. These back it was WWF, but I was real good friends with Sean Hernandez. He was Stuff Hernandez was his wrestling name. I think he's with Homicide now, the tag team. But we used to travel together a lot. And on the show where they used 2 guys and didn't use 2 guys, he was one of the 2 they used. I think he wrestled Crash Holly, I think, on that one. And I guess Kevin Kelly was talking to Hernandez. And he said, "What's with that guy with all the gigs on his head? He's kind of scary." And I really didn't have my head wasn't all cut up back then. This was 20 some years ago. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, if my head is too cut up now, if that's what's going to prevent me from coming here, then I need to embrace what I have going on. If they think I'm this scary monster now, then I'm just going to be that scary monster. I'm going to be in the matches with the chairs and the blood and all that. And it was just you know, reacting to the situation I was in.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one indeed. I mean, I never thought that I'd find myself back at XPW after all these years, but you just never know. I love Rob now. I love being there and just seeing the progression of women's wrestling. What are your thoughts on, actually, just a few things. First of all, I keep looking in your background. We'll talk about that after, but what are the thoughts that you have on women's wrestling now with these girls getting brutal? I mean, they're amazing.
Boy, it's and I've known these girls for a long time, both Nikki and Lou Dark. I've known those girls since they were like 17. Yeah, and I've watched all this. You know, part of me is like about watching it, but part of me is also concerned for them because some of the things they do are just very, very dangerous. But I mean, it's what that's what the guys are doing in the main event, so that's what the girls are going to be doing too.
Yeah, but like Minnie Knuckles, she's scared. I mean, I was very scared for her. I mean, those girls like her and Sage Sand, it's just, she reminds, I'll tell you what Mickey reminds me of. She reminds me of our version of Abby the Butcher, for sure.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's something else.
He
I worked with him
embraces
many
that.
times, and he's one of the nicest people. And it was just really, I remember working on an indie show with him, and there was some kid who was really green in the dressing room. He plays peekaboo with the Iron Sheik. And you don't do that to the Iron Sheik. And the same time, I think he was in a match with Abby. And I remember after the match was over, Abby was like telling him, you have to do this. It's like he told him, and the kid just seemed like it was going like in one ear, out the other. So I pulled him aside, even though I was sort of new myself. I said, these guys are old school. Like, you don't know what you're getting. This is, you have to respect what they're saying. And nobody walks up to the Sheik and puts their eyes on him and goes, peekaboo. You just don't do that type of shit. What would you say? What, is there anywhere you'd like to work that you haven't worked? Because I feel like you've been everywhere. Were you in CCW, right? Back then?
Well, for a good while.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
so.
for a good while. And then like when you guys started your stuff in Philly, I moved to Texas pretty well right away. So I was kind of gone, you know, right when you started your stuff. But that's around the same time frame. That was when I was in CCW for a while. Yeah, like because they have I think next month they're having their big tournament of death, and they're making a big deal about this being the 20th anniversary of the tournament of death. And I thought, Christ, I was in like the first 3 or 4 of those, you know. So it's just it's really weird.
Yeah,
I'm
where are
just,
you going?
you know, I'm entering the tournament. I'll be there. It's the 29th of October. Yeah. I'm in the death tournament. Trying again. Yeah, yeah. You know, for a while I was in a hospital bed. I got really sick. You know, I thought wrestling was over a long time ago. You know, I had a girlfriend. I was trying to have a normal life, you know, regular job and all that. And then I got sick, and I got really really sick. You know, I was down to about 160. Ended up with I got all for stage 3 is all the further it got. And then just as quick as I got sick, I got better. And I thought, well, what you know, I saw some of the stuff going on, the guys doing it now, and I thought I can do that, you know. So just taking it like second chance, you know, kind of appreciate it more.
Be careful. Maybe I just watch Rocky like too many times. But I've never been to a CZW show. I thought Zandig was hot like a long time ago. I don't know what he looks like now. I'll have to, maybe I'll go check out the show. I don't know.
Same, only older.
He what? He looks like Van
The
Wilder?
same, only older.
Well, does he have like
No, the same, only older.
does he have a beer belly? Did he put on weight? Does he look
Slightly,
good?
just a little bit,
Is he
a
balding?
little bit, a little bit.
Oh, okay. No, it's never mind.
He looks the same. He looks the same.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, I used to watch those shows and I'd get squeamish around that. And then to come into this, like the first XPW show back, we have a death match tournament. I'm like, okay, well, this will be okay. Next thing I see like shower doors, I see everything else. It's like, what are these people gonna do next? You know? where do you think you've actually worked where you felt, well, which match, let me rephrase this, which match do you feel might have been your most holy shit moment where I don't know if I'm going to pull out of this one, or maybe I just won't do this again? Has there ever been that moment in your career? Because I'm sure everyone's had it.
There's been a few rough ones, but that's the thing with when you're dealing with glass and things like that. You can't predict what's going to happen. And you might be lucky for a while, a good while, but sooner or later your luck does run out, and you can get seriously injured really quick. And I've had a few injuries, but obviously not enough to scare me away yet. So.
I get scared every time I see you go in the ring, like you, Schlack, everyone else. And the last time, like, I swear everyone's asking to bring weapons to the next XPW match. No, you need to bring a handheld vacuum for the ring crew. I had a shard of glass in my back when I got up. Like, that was not fun, but it's always a risk when you go in there. What do you think you would be doing if you weren't wrestling? Would you maybe be a baseball player or a politician or something cool like that?
I've worked baseball for a few years. I'm currently the public address announcer for a minor league team up here, the Mechanicsburg Cardinals up here in Mechanicsburg, PA. I've done grounds crew for a few years in Dayton, Ohio, for the Dayton Dragons. I was a ticket taker at the gate for a season. It's really strange because I worked on the grounds crew for I think 17 and 18, and then I started getting sick, so they moved me to taking tickets, and then I got too sick to do that. So then in February of 20, I resigned from the team. I said, "Look, I'm too sick. I can't work." And then I think it was maybe March of 2020, they canceled minor league baseball anyway. So all of minor league baseball was canceled. The same time I got sick, the whole country got sick, just a different way. So I don't know. I enjoy being around baseball, but a lot of that's because I'm not any good at it. I'm a good fan, but I'm a better fan than a player.
Isn't it crazy how that works out? I like baseball too. I grew up watching the Yankees and stuff like that. I don't want to play like softball or anything like that, or I'm just really bad at baseball. I'm good at wrestling then. I'm good at I'm good at other things, but just not that. Did you, like, when you were a kid, and when I say kid, I'm not talking our 20s, I'm saying younger, what did you actually want to be? Like, when you go back to your much younger version of yourself, like, what did you really want?
Honestly, I wanted to be a commentator. I was a small kid, and this whole there were guys under 200 pounds back then. If you were under 200 pounds, you were a referee. Now you have guys wrestling like 150, 160, and it's common, but it wasn't common back then. So I tried to learn the moves and the history of these guys and the places they'd been in the championships, and I became like a wrestling nerd, because I wanted to be a commentator. So I thought I had potential at that. So that's really what I was trying to do. Probably uh probably like high school age. Like in high school, I was still entertaining these thoughts of being a wrestling commentator in high school.
Well, you never know. Maybe it's, never too late. I see a lot of people that were a lot of wrestlers that are now commentating and so forth. So you never know.
Yeah, yeah.
I pray for you every time you go out there, and that's the truth. Um, so did you ever anticipate this would be a great way to make a living, and just doing wrestling and then do you do signings at all? Do you do appearances? And if you do, what's the weirdest thing a fan has ever done or given you as a gift?
Uh, I did a couple of those. It just makes me feel weird. Like if someone sees me at a show, sure, I'll sign something for you. But I just never, I did one of those signing things, and I felt really weird. And the promoter said, "Oh, don't worry, you'll get the hang of it." So I did another one, and I felt worse.
Why?
I've only done two. I just feel weird. That's not who I am. I never. I just want people to watch me wrestle. Be entertained by my match. And if you see me somewhere, sure, I'll take a picture. I'll sign something. We'll have a beer together, whatever you want. But I'm just not a big social guy like people might think. I don't like to be In the ring, I'm kind of in control of what's going on. Nothing's going to happen in the ring that I don't want to happen. But when sitting at a table and all these people could come up, they could come up and they could ask me questions. It's intimidating to me. I can't do it.
Really? But you could ask someone for
Yeah.
a chair, right? Then like a million chairs come flying into the ring, right?
Well, yeah, that's happened a few times.
But you're not intimidated by that physical aspect, but yet you're intimidated by nerds. Um, you know, probably 40% of them live in their parents' basement or something, but you're intimidated by them. But I get it. You want your own narrative. That's just, I can't understand that. You'd probably make more money than I would selling a photo because you don't show up to those and it's like a rarity. I'm telling you. But I don't blame you for feeling slightly scared.
I mean, if I'm not wrestling, I'm happy just watching a baseball game or just hanging out in my room or, I'm a big Jeopardy nut. I watch Jeopardy. So just television, beer, baseball. I'm happy. I don't need all that.
So what's that on the wall behind you? Because I'm seeing all these action figures. That looks like my doll chest. I have vintage Barbies. So what are those? Are those dolls?
They're called starting lineups. They're from Kenner made, and they're from 1990. They're all baseball players.
Okay.
So I'm just a nerd. So if you look around my room is like a 12-year-old boy's room. There's pictures, baseball players, baseball cards, posters. Nothing. I have my own place. I can do what I want. So it's like a little kid's place.
It's a man cave. I have 3 Mickey Mantle signed baseballs, actually.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
When I was sick, I was in bed, and I didn't feel like this. I didn't used to hang stuff up, but when I was sick and in bed, it used to make me really feel good. I would look at things and remember things. So then, as I just kept doing, I like to put things around me that I like to look at. It makes me, even though I'm not sick anymore, I still like to do that. I like to look at things and feel good about what I see. So I put these toys and posters and whatnots, and it makes me happy.
I think we all have a little bit of kid in us. Like I still have like Barbies. I have Casper stuff from when I was a kid, and Ziggy. Remember Ziggy, that comic, that weird guy?
Yeah, a bald guy, a little short.
Yeah. He's kind of down on life sometimes. Like if it were up to me, I'd have photos of Big Joe, but I can't because I don't think there are any photos of him out there that are actually nice to hang up in the room because he's all covered in blood all the time. So did you ever find, like, is there ever a time in your life during your career that you were single and then it's super hard to explain to people what you do? Because it's got to be really tough. I know I've heard stories from both sides.
I generally don't unless they corner me. I'll tell them, hey, I'm going to Detroit for a couple of days. Hey, I'm going to Mexico for a week. If they corner me, I'll get in detail. But I generally just don't volunteer that about me unless someone really, corners me, pins me down, and what are you doing? Or I get recognized or something like that. If I get recognized, of course, I'll confirm their suspicions.
Wait a second. So you could date someone and they don't ever ask you what you do. You just tell them like, okay, this is what I do during the week. So you never tell them anything about wrestling, because I would imagine, and I'm coming from my viewpoint, it's been super hard to explain to some of these idiots out there that want to go out with me. Then I'm explaining the wrestling on the weekend. I'm explaining this and they don't fucking get it. So do you ever have that where you get a hard time?
It has probably been, let me think here. It's probably, and this is a horrible thing to admit, but it's probably been at least maybe more than 20 years since I dated someone who didn't approach me first at a wrestling show. So they kind of know anyway. I don't really talk to anybody. I don't go up to girls at a bar. I don't do that.
Why? Are you afraid of
if a girl comes talk to me at a wrestling show? I just don't. I just never have. So
well,
if a girl comes up and talks to me,
what?
I said, generally the women I find up dating and in relationships with are women that have approached me at a wrestling show. So they generally have a good idea of what's going on.
You see,
It's been a
I'm
long
jealous.
time.
I'm jealous of you now because I wish guys would come up to me at a fucking wrestling show that I'm working in that are hot, that want to talk to me. You know, you have it a little bit better than I do in that respect. Then with this, I just brought up cancel culture. Now I've seen cancel culture affect things all around the world in every
Oh yeah.
aspect. Yeah, it's really disgusting, and it's usually like I feel there's this trend of victimization that's going on, and if you play you're a victim, you'll get the attention, but you need to validate yourself somehow, especially online, so you feel relevant. Now, with cancel culture, do you think it's affected wrestling in some ways, aside from Drake is coming to work for us, right? WWE Drake, he was canceled.
Yeah, I'm great.
Yeah,
I'm good
I'm
friends with him. I'm
excited.
great friends with him.
Yeah. Do you think it's definitely affected
Well,
wrestling in
look
many
at
ways?
the well, of course. I mean, look at those dark side of the ring TV shows. Again, 20 years later, everybody hates Ric Flair. Not because they talked to anybody that was on that flight. Not because they saw a TV show and the TV show said Ric Flair acted like Ric Flair. And it's the same thing you hear. I mean, thank God social media wasn't around back then. Where what would have happened? What would our history of wrestling look like if this stuff was around back then?
Yeah, it's like I
It's
feel as
just
though being a victim is righteous these days for people, but when you have a victim mentality, you will go around life being that, and it's not a good look. But most importantly, I think these things should have like a statute of limitation. So basically, I can't go 30 years back and say like Dustin Hoffman harassed me, which he didn't, by the way. But it's this thing that just keeps coming over and over. And I just hope it doesn't impact us in any way, shape, or form. Have you ever been affected by cancel culture, by anything you've said or done?
oh, it's cancel culture. That's kind of a glossy term, but what's really happened in our society, it's become okay to lie about someone you don't agree with. And uh, comparing the right with the left, the right wing and the left wing. Uh, Conservatives, we generally feel that liberals are good people with bad ideas. Their ideas are dumb. It's not going to work. But liberals think conservatives are bad people and we have to silence them. We have to maybe even assault them. We have to We have to make them lose their job. We can't let them talk in public. They must be silenced, and that's just that it didn't used to be like that. It did. You could disagree with someone. Hell, you could even argue with them and laugh at them. But now it's not like that. Now you have violence committed. All these slander campaigns against people they're proven wrong, but then no one's ever held accountable for anything. It's the it's the victimization, like you said. That's why COVID is so popular. There's people that'll never take their masks off. They'll never take their masks off. You have these 25-year-old kids who they're immunocompromised, and you have to put your mask on for them. You're bullying them by not wearing a muzzle because they want to be victimized. It's the fetishization of victimhood.
Yeah, it's true. And with
It's a
this whole
fetish.
mask thing, I mean, two women held their arms like this. So I couldn't go up the street I live on because I didn't have a mask on. I
Yeah,
just hit her. I said, get the fuck out of my way because I live here and I'm not going to put a mask on, but you should because your husband has to look at you. So you should keep a mask on. But I feel bad for a lot of people who who, when you're like just in a house watching a TV and that's all you have, and you forget about
yeah.
H1N1, you forget about all that stuff, that more people died from that, but there's no lockdown. It just brings you back to this whole thing of common sense. Now, I feel as though a lot of these younger kids today are very seduced by the dark side of things. We had Dark Side of the Ring and we had Dark Side of the 90s. So at the same time, the very thing that you
Yeah.
people are criticizing, not that people listen to this, absolutely not, but they criticize it. But at the same time, it somehow titillates you because it's something you've never lived through and will never be so cool to do, which is what I think is going on. I don't think XPW is going to suffer too much cancel culture. I mean, I think we've basically done it all. And what was it like? Have you worked for Rob before, or has this been like the first stint? And what was your first impression of Rob Black?
I had worked for XPW before, but it was after he had left the company. I
Oh, wait, he
think
left the company? Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
that was a while ago. This was oh my god, I don't know, maybe almost 20 years ago. It was he for a short time, and that's when I went and had a match with Supreme. I think it was called Cold Day in Hell or something like that. I think it was called, but it was a long time ago. He wasn't around. So my XPW experience, I had never even spoken with him until recently, and he hit me up. Someone gave him my number, and he just called me, and we were talking, and he talked about things he wanted to do, and I was just blown away that he had me in mind for all these things. So I'm waiting with bated breath like all the rest of us to see where this is going. I mean, we have something. The October 22nd, we'll be back out there in
Yep.
Pomona.
And then November
And
12th.
then, yes, November 12th. Those other guys' arena.
I can't wait for November 12th.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be crazy because I can't wait to see Drake.
It'll be great.
It's going to be so badass. I'm like so excited. I mean, we're going to make wrestling great again. It's so perfect. So yes, I'm excited. But did you think Rob, well, people get different impressions of him. I thought he was very interesting when I first met him and very cool. Did you get any impression of him that he knew what he was doing, or maybe that he's a bit, out there?
Well, he's a bit hyperactive, if you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to get him to slow down if you want to get an answer from him. Sometimes he's got so much stuff going on, and he's all over the place. But I mean, and everybody's but people need to realize, yes, he's doing that show in New Jersey, but the past few shows we've done out in LA, they've ran shows right down the road. This isn't. He's not just doing this unprovoked. They've been taking. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see what happens.
The truth is, there's enough. Rob's a very smart guy. I get it. All the hyperness comes from creativity. I have the same issues. People think it's cocaine. No, it's hyper, and I have a super hyperthyroid. So just the other day, I only had 1 hour or 2 hours of sleep, but I'm up next morning, just doing things that I have to get done that I know I can do right. So I think Rob is one of the most creative people. That there's no real senseful extreme stuff being done on the indie circuit. And I'm glad we're running New Jersey. He has a fan base there. And what indie promoters need to understand is that there is plenty of room out there. You don't have to go picking on people's wives, people's girlfriends, and just wrestlers in general. You could be cool and work with one another, or be a bitch. Yeah. But
he's done this before. And what experience do these other guys have at inter-promotion warfare? They have no experience. They don't know what they're getting into.
Yeah, and it's not fair to the fans to do that, because then fans have to pick or choose, where they're going and so forth. Or when you run head to head with, when I had 3PW, some people would run head to head with me. Certain people who had, little kids and stuff. But it was the stupidest thing, because then you're making the fans choose. So just run back to back. So the night before XPW is PWU, which we have a really great relationship with. And then the 22nd is the third Halloween in Hell. I was at the very first one years ago, 23 years ago. Wow, 23 fucking years. Yeah, 23 years ago. And here I am back. I'm fucking old. Yeah, damn straight I'm freaking old. But you know what? Guess what? It's cool, because at least we lived in an era before cameras, in an era before cancel culture, and in an era before every fucking woman out there, or most of them, want to go out there and accuse any guy that looks at them wrong in such a way that you're castrating men. You're castrating them because they will not come and talk to you now. But I guess this whole I have my theories and stuff like that. But yeah, so getting back to wrestling. Yeah, I'm excited. And where could fans usually see you? If like, where do fans look for you online? And do you interact with people online or not? Yeah.
Not really. Not really. Yeah, when baseball season's over, I'll be in my room, staring out the window, waiting on spring to arrive. Going down to the last two. I'm a big Cardinals fan, so the last two home games at Busch, I'll be going down there on Saturday and Sunday, and then we'll see how the postseason shakes out. But I don't really get out. I was. I just I keep a low profile. Keep a low profile. I don't need any attention.
I don't blame you. There's nothing really interesting outside anyway. Um, so that's good to know. And I don't blame you for not interacting too much on social media. It's tedious. And guys, I like talking to some of you guys on Instagram, but the next time I get a dick photo, I'm going to post it and I'm going to find out where you live and post that shit on there too. I've outed guys like that before on my social media, and I'll do it over and over. So with all of this, what do you see yourself doing? Like, what do you do when you're actually at home? Do you go to Cracker Barrel? Do you go to Perkins? Do you like go to the old Campbell Soup building or something like that? Parmenti Brothers? Like, what is Necro Butcher?
I do like Ronnie Brothers. I do like Ronnie Brothers. Yes, yeah. But I don't. I mean, well, the pandemic has given us DoorDash, so now you have so many, so many options. I live in a little town. Sometimes after 8 o'clock, there might be maybe 3 or 4 DoorDash options. Go out there to LA, I get tired of scrolling. There'll be so many options. I can just my hotel room and have all these food delivered. So I'm a DoorDash junkie.
That's awesome. I wish I wish we had like overnight DoorDash so I could order like Cracker Barrel to come here, or like Parmenti Brothers with like coleslaw, pastrami fries, like everything. Because they used to ship White House subs from Jersey to here a long time ago. I don't know if they do it anymore. Has the pandemic affected you in any way, shape, or form, like negatively, you think, or anything positive that came out of it? Like everyone got something out of it somehow.
Well, actually, when I went into remission, I questioned my remission a lot more than I questioned the cancer in the first place. I couldn't understand why I got better the way I did. So I tried to think, well, what can I do? What can I do with this second chance I've got? And I actually ended up working at a nursing home for a year. And I was in the nursing home about 30 days before COVID hit the nursing home. So I was there for that whole nasty experience. But the thing of it was, I saw exactly what this virus was and what it wasn't. And it's just, I think, and as far as the pandemic goes, let's face it, nursing homes were ground zero for COVID deaths. Then we had all like we talked about, all the Democratic governors that put the COVID patients inside the nursing homes. Like if you were a supervillain, and you wanted to kill as many people you could, what would you do? You'd put them in the nursing, and that's what they did. But I saw that, I was still a chemo patient working with COVID patients, and I never got it. I got it later after I quit. I got it, but I mean, you saw what this thing was and what it wasn't.
Yeah, it's
You could try to
interesting.
explain it to people, and Lisa on Facebook is arguing with you about it. And all the things they told us. Get the vaccine, you won't catch it. Get the vaccine, you won't spread it. They were arresting people for swimming in the ocean. They were cutting down the basketball hoops in the playground to keep kids from playing basketball. Stay inside. All the things they told us were wrong. Everything they told us was wrong. But we're still buying into it because it let us play the victim.
Yeah. And I feel as though during that whole time, nobody really pushed the agenda of being healthy. So I was out every day in the street walking because there was no one outside. Yeah, I was riding my motorcycle. There's no traffic. I was meeting, I tried to date. I was on Bumble and I was throwing off of Bumble for something I wrote, and someone got offended. I just basically it said, if you ride a scooter and wear a man bun, swipe left because I already have a vagina. So they got offended by that, and I was thrown off. I know. But I went out every day. I was perfectly healthy. I had friends that were nurses during that time, and they gave me a lot of very good information. I think I caught COVID once, but it was like 3 days. I was on my ass the second day, but the third day I was up
Yeah.
and about. I took zinc and I took a Z pack. Everyone, I didn't take ivermectin, and I was completely fine. And with the vaccine, it was never ever like a red thing or a blue thing, because I have friends in classes that are far opposite of me that didn't want to take it because uh, they didn't know what was in it. Then I had friends on the other side who may have taken it or not taken it, because nobody knows what these are. I just don't like needles, but I'll inject myself with HGH all day. Yes, or vitamin B. Yeah, exactly. So what do you do to stay healthy now? And I feel so bad that you had cancer, and like here you are in the ring. Okay. I don't know. Please take it easy.
No, I walk every day. I lift weights only 3 days a week. I'm too old to do lower body, so it's all I just do upper body. That's all. And I walk every day, and I was in a bed for 8 months. So how dare I not walk whenever I can? I used to have to use a walker to go down the hallway to piss. So and that's the thing with wrestling. How dare I complain? I'm having such a good time. I never thought any of this was ever going to happen. So I'm just, give me the big guys that want to throw down, and I'll see what we got. Look at that monster they're going to put me with in New Jersey, for crying out loud.
Yeah. What the
The
hell?
PCO. He's a legitimate monster. Monsters are real, and I'm going to meet him in New Jersey.
Yeah, I'm so scared. You can use my Singapore cane if you want. It would really be cool. I mean, XPW, you're a great heel. I think Drake's going to be an amazing heel as well, for sure. You guys would be awesome together. If you ever had a tag team partner, that would be like my dream, would be him, because it's just perfect.
Oh, me too.
Making wrestling great again,
Yep,
I think 100%.
Yes.
But all right, so
I don't know what his schedule is like, so we'll see what's going on. Yeah.
I actually have him on my other show next week, so I'll find out more. Yeah, it's been crazy. You keep me busy with all this stuff. I never thought wrestling, this would be my life now, is XPW, which is great. I'm grateful for that, and the fans, and for Rob, and then acting, and then just podcasting, because I fucking hate electronics, and half the time I just want to smash them. Yes. But anywho, so do you have any messages for your fans? And most of all, where can people find you if they want to see your schedule?
Let's see. I'll be going to 2 Cardinals games next week, so I'll be available next week. But the 7th of October, I'll be wrestling in Detroit for Horror Slam. And then we have the Turn of Death for CZW, which I think is October 29th. And then October 22nd, that's right, for XPW. Also, I forgot. And then XPW again in New Jersey on November 12th. I'm no spring chicken, so I'm not trying to get out there and wrestle 2 or 3 times a week like I used to. Any time off in between.
Do you have merchandise people can buy? Because I think you should have a really cool shirt.
No.
You don't have merchandise? My God. Jesus.
No.
I feel like we just have to set you up with like someone. Yeah, we got someone that'll make a t-shirt of you and sell it for you and just send you the check. I feel that's where you need to be right now. So yeah, guys, if anyone listening out there would like to make a Necro Butcher shirt, which I encourage someone to do, and give him the money, obviously, because it's his likeness that you're using, let us know. Like, seriously. And what are your social? I'm beside myself. I'm sorry. Yeah, what are your social media handles?
I messed around with Facebook, but that's it. And the only reason I ever even got on Facebook, because there was a fake me, so I had to make an account and send a picture of my ID and all this silly stuff. So I'm on Facebook, but I don't mess with anything else. I use YouTube and Twitter, but I don't post anything. So I post things on Facebook, but just mostly things to either amuse me or up liberals. Those are my hobbies.
Oh my God, I love it. Maybe I'll run for city councilor or something in your town. and you'll win. I can't vote for you though, because I'm all the way out here, but maybe we could mail it in. So anywho, anyone wishing to check out Necro Butcher, go ahead and meet him at a Cardinals game. Buy him a beer, buy him lunch, buy him dinner.
Yes.
Shit. Right, exactly.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
just do it. And then we have Detroit. You have a Detroit date, October or September. October. You have Detroit. You've got XPW October 22nd, CZW the 29th, and then back at XPW Wrestling November 12th in New Jersey for our New Jersey debut, which I really would love to see everyone at. I'd love to see all the fans there. But thank you so much for being a part of the crazy train today.
Yeah, anytime. It's great finally meet you. We've been in the same world for so long, but it has never crossed. So it's nice to talk to you out in California. Maybe we'll talk more in different states.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you. And hold on, I'm just going to stop this. Hang on one time.